All right. Hey, today we have John Pacheco, the newest council member on the Met Council representing District 6. Governor Tim Walz appointed him to the role in February. He's also the president of Minnesota's Latino Chamber of Commerce. Hey, John, thanks for being here.
No, thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. So you were actually a council member back in the early 90s also. What inspired you to want to come back?
It's an interesting thing that I'm really a big proponent of public involvement and civic engagement, and so I encourage everybody I work with at the Latino Chamber and other institutions that I've been working with is you should at least sit on one public body. So I've always made that a goal to sit on one public body, and I was looking for a place for a friend of mine who's looking to get engaged, and I noticed that the Met Council seat was up. And I literally said, do I live in sixth district? And I looked it up and I did, and I do. And so I applied, and I thought, this is a good partnership, if you will, or a good use of my time with the Latino Chamber as well as the Met Council on looking at equity and gaps and what we're doing. And so that's how it all came about. And I was surprised actually I got appointed, but I did. And I don't know if anyone did me any favors when you look at my district, but but it's coming along.
Sure. Can you tell me a bit about your previous experience on the council, on the Met Council?
Sure, this would have been, like 30 years ago, and it was nowhere near where we are today. I mean, we didn't have transit. We didn't have any part of the transportation. Pretty much what we had was the really looking at how we can work with the 7 county metro area and look at urban sprawl, looking at how we handle housing, low income housing, how we spread it out, and then other issues that came our way. Obviously the big one for us at that time was the wastewater treatment. And so it's a different agenda. It was a little bit more, I don't know, focused on the policy and the land use.
Yeah. So that experience may not inform your current experience as much. What kind of goals do you have being in this role? You've been in it for a bit now, and you still your tenure still has your term still has some time left.
Oh, I'm gonna tell you something. It's really overwhelming when you look at what District 6 has. I mean, we have the blue line extension, the green line extension. I was meeting yesterday with the BRT, the E line through my neighborhood, and all of these provide interaction with other folks. And I'm actually real pleased about the transportation one. I tell folks is, I kind of grew up with that. My mother and father never drove a car. I have 3 sisters, 3 brothers. So everywhere we went was on a bus. Even the cabs, you could only take a yellow cab because they had those 2 little seats that would fold up. And then we'd all fight over those little seats. And my dad, he took the bus to work, then my mom as well. And my dad worked at Honeywell. And if they moved, he had to, figure out a new way to get to the different stations that he was working in. So I'm really attracted to transit and how what a difference it makes in people's lives. So in some ways, what we're doing today with these different, these are 100-year investments that we're talking about today. Is kind of exciting. So I'm still behind a little bit in reading a lot. I actually like the tour type stuff. So I'm going on a bike tour to see what are the issues regarding how fast can we open up these trails? And that's the biggest issue over in that area right now. And so, yeah, I'm enjoying it. It's very, very, very time consuming. It's interesting.
Yeah. So I'm hearing that you value experiencing these things yourself to really be able to make the decisions on them.
Your eyes get glossed over after a while when you read all the different metrics that we're trying to measure. And we consume a lot of information in all of these projects. We pride ourselves on planning and community engagement. So whether it's the green line or blue line, they both have anti-displacement committees in place. And even when the pandemic was having people home, they were doing garage door type of education around the different routes we were taking and where we were planning. So we couldn't, because you can't just stop things. But so I've been on the bus tour for that. I do. I've always, again, sat on a number of boards that provide those opportunities. Uh, and, uh, and whether it was the Hennepin County Library Board or the Governor's Task Force on Juvenile Justice, I was 10 years vice chair of the Metropolitan Sports Facility Commission when it governed the Metrodome. And so there's all these different interactions, but it's all been kind of local as well. So I'm kind of, again, grew up around it.
Yeah. Your bio isn't long enough to name all the boards and things you've been involved with, right?
No, it's not.
Do you have some thoughts on what you hope to see the Met Council undertake during your current tenure?
Well, we're pretty much deep into what we're doing with, again, the light rail and the growth and expansion. And it's not just laying the groundwork there, but it's really the development that goes around. There's billions of dollars of development that are going around the green line and the blue line as well. I mean, so I want to see it grow. I also spend time in almost every committee I've been on over the years, and to this one, even the previous one, was on the diversity and equity, the equity planning that goes around some of these things. How are we providing an equitable access to transportation or to some of the other services that we provide? And we're doing it strategically and intentfully. So we have an advisory committee that meets on a regular basis, and we were just meeting the other day and talking about how we do ensure that people have the right access. When is the bus running? When is the trains when are they running, and how secure they are. So I like to be interactive. I think looking at these gaps is in how equity is spread through this region is really difficult because we're behind on a lot of states, and as progressive as people believe we are, and I believe we are, we have a lot of work to do around equity, and so that's one of my goals there. If I listen to what I'm hearing more is safety, and that's across the board. I mean, you look at it, Minneapolis is looking for a police chief. The St. Paul is looking for a police chief. We are. Metro Transit Police are looking for a police chief. We're all down officers, and we're doing what we can and beating the, bushes, as they say, to look at how we can get more officers trained and ready to go. And so make people feel a little bit more secure while they're riding the light rail or a bus late in the evening. And so when I'm spending more time on that, I seem to, I'll give you an example, is that while working not only with the Latino Chamber, but within the Latino community, I led a team called Workforce Next, and it involved the largest organizations that were established by and for people of color in Minnesota here. So Summit Academy, Urban League, Hmong American Partnership, CLUES, LEDC, Latino Economic Development Center, American Indian OIC. And what we did first was get together and look at how we work together ourselves and how are we tracking, what metrics are we tracking? And then we went to the legislature to provide to get some resources so we can address this. And we did focus groups in Wilmer and in Austin, and we worked within the Somali community. So I think there's the other part of why I'm doing this, and the other part that I think is really connected is the part that we're doing at the Met Council and where I'm doing at the Latino Chamber in regards to equity.
Yeah. I want to ask more about your work with the Latino Chamber, but and you've touched on this, what values would you say you're bringing into this role beyond, a search for equity and focusing on that?
But it's how I started out, is that I believe in public service. And so I've encouraged people to do that all the time. I said, if you go to the state Secretary of State's office website and you look at all the different committees, I got to tell you, there is a committee for you. I don't care if you're a plumber, a police officer, a scientist, a youth worker. There are so many advisories and boards that you can be involved in, and it goes across every strata, whether you're in the corporate sector or whether you're in the nonprofit sector. What can you come to the table with, and how they could use your advice and skills? And I'm gonna tell you, people love to have people volunteering, especially in the policy area, because it's hard to engage people. So the values there, I think, it comes around community engagement, community involvement, and really getting to what's important. I mean, right now, we can look at the expansion of light rail and say, whether it's a tunnel or what we're doing as far as growing, but it gets beyond that. I mean, it's really it's not only the engagement in that area, but it is, how many trees we would take away along the bus route, or how many parking spots, and then it's meeting with the community. I can't tell you how much the community engagement is done within the staff and within the local community. And the other thing, the value I see is that we work directly with a lot of the local council members and mayors and the University of Minnesota now on viral load. I mean, so there's all these partnerships that we have at our disposal that we're really doing some great things. I mean, who would have predicted a partnership with the University of Minnesota on viral load? And we have Dr. Osterholm really praising the work. He's the head epidemiologist, if I get it right, at the University of Minnesota, and they're really praising the work that the staff did. Now, that's something you don't know until you know it. And then now we're looking at whether it's monkeypox or other things. Was how was this used in planning? I think if so, again, my first would be engagement. The second would be the policy development around these things. And really, we're doing some great things. And sometimes you get focused on one aspect, and you fail to see the broad picture there.
Sure. Yeah. One of my other questions was going to be, what other work have you done that led you here? But I don't think we have enough time for that. It sounds like it's been a lot of work. What do you think is some of the most impactful work that you've done?
Well, you know what? I spent 18 years at Xcel Energy. My first 10 was leading local government relations. And as we said back then, we're literally connected to all of our customers in the utility business. And I had the opportunity to work on a team to negotiate the franchise agreement with the city of Minneapolis. But the most impactful one was working along the river. I worked with the chair here of Met Council, Charlie Zelli, in lighting the Stone Arch Bridge and opening that the waterways behind there and creating Water Power Park around the falls. That's there was the alphabet soup, whether it was the Historical Society, Hennepin County, the city, the DNR, and just to get that work done, it took years, but it was at the end of it, you can go there now and walk along the river and actually touch the river instead of being at some distant deal. And then, again, I've worked with the Sports Facility Commission on looking at how we divide those teams up and get them their facilities and how that grows and the economic vitality that brings to a downtown. So my over 10,000 foot level, I spent 26 years in corporate. My last job was at U.S. Bank, heading their foundation and community relations. But I spent another 16 in nonprofit work and social service. So there's a lot of little victories and and losses along the way. But I'm glad that you had time today, because today I'm down in Tulsa on the National Board of Golden Gloves Boxing of America. And I don't know if that helps me in this new job I have now, but I know how to defend myself.
Right. Well, hey, maybe that's important too. Um, you've done a lot with workforce initiatives, right? Closing employment and training gaps for communities of color in the Latino community, maybe more specifically. Can you tell me about some of that work?
Well, yeah, I was working with Workforce Next and looking at what are the barriers. If you're on an immigrant status, or what kind of status you have in regards to citizenship is what determines whether you get a driver's license. If you don't have a driver's license, it's tough these days to get a job. And so we're looking at policies that impact different levels within the community. Within the Latino community specifically, we're overrepresented, if you will, in the workforce. Because the fact is, it's not that we don't have jobs. We have three of them just to make up the income that you need that somebody else would need to gain. And now everybody's looking for workers. And so we're looking at how the Latino businesses, for example, are getting supplier diversity grants, or not grants, but awards from government. And I met with Secretary of State's office and others and say, look, we're not getting these grants, and in the next couple of years, there's going to be a lot more money in infrastructure and ability to contract. And I see it as a three-legged stool. I mean, government contracts a lot, over 2.2 billion in products and services. The University of Minnesota does over 400 million. Of that, what goes to the more diverse communities to make this more of an equitable value, if you will. And so that's what we're doing. That's what I'm doing there now. And so we're working about like I said, it's like a three-legged stool. we're working to get government to help certify a lot of the businesses that we have and make them eligible for contracts. We're working with supplier diversity folks within the corporate world, and each of them have their own goals and are set up to work. And then another one that's kind of been left off, and that's in the public sector. Some of the bigger nonprofits, if you will, I mean, they have more flexibility on contracting, whether it's landscaping or legal work. I mean, how are they using and how are they engaging the Latino community? So that's kind of that's what I'm focusing this year. And we at the chamber kind of respond to what's going on in within the businesses. So, for example, when people were applying for those PPP loans, not all of them had the financial background for the last 3 years, and some of the businesses are just stuck there. And so we had classes on QuickBooks, both in English and Spanish for small business. We just finished a webinar on how to buy your own or lease your own building. What happened on Lake Street if the building was damaged and they lost their inventory and they didn't get the insurance, the building owner did. And so they're realizing the importance of having that ability. And maybe you're not ready to buy, but you need to know what it is. And our model over at the Latino Chamber is really leveraging the skills and assets that we have within the community. And so on a quarterly basis, we'll do a workshop on how to start your business. Is it LLC or is it sole proprietorship? We we do workshops on real estate, buying your home. It's your biggest asset. Even if you're looking to start a business, they know you have this kind of asset here. So we respond that way, and really it helps our Latino lawyers and realtors and everything kind of have access to the community.
Yeah. There were a lot of promises for equity that were made kind of in the wake of George Floyd and during COVID. Are you seeing a greater focus on equity? Are you seeing the dollars come through to actually live up to those promises?
I've seen work being done. If you look at the Latino Economic Development Center, they're the only Latino CDFI Community Development Finance Institution, and they worked really hard to get money out on the street as fast as possible to really help these businesses who lost their inventory. And what they'll tell you, and what I've heard, is that when you talk to the businesses, they say, "John, I came here, didn't have anything." So right now we're rebuilding. And so the resilience within the community is what I've seen most. But I've also seen some of the resources the banks are putting down on Lake Street now, and the counties and cities are kind of coming together and say, how do we rebuild better, if you will, and how do we make sure some of these small businesses aren't lost in the mix here? Because there's going to be some buildings that are going to be built, and they're going to have that design. So what I really like it is that I think if you look at the Lake Street Council again and others I choose Lake Street because there's like over 300 Latino businesses there. When you really look at it, people are being intentful. There's the regular meetings and there's people, saying, here's where we grow. Here's what we need. We didn't have security in this intersection. We need more this time. So I am seeing some coming together and being real intentful about how we rebuild.
Definitely. Back to some Met Council things. What do you hope to see happen with transit in these next 5 or 10 years? There's a lot of, since the beginning, there's pushback and things like that. What do you hope to see?
Well, first of all, the other thing about the Met Council, they don't look at things in 5 and 10 years. It's 40 years and 50 years out there. I told them their 2050 plan, I'll be 100. And so I hope I'm around for it. But so I see them as being the stalwart and really doing that analysis and seeing these things through. It's not a flash in the pan. It's not it's something that you get and you look at and you move on. I mean, reorganizing transit and all the different modes, whether you ride your bike or whether you are driving or the bus or trail. I mean, all this has to be integrated in a really thoughtful way. And what I like about what we're doing there is that we, again, are really engaging the local community. So some people, again, I mentioned earlier, some people look at why the train and when here, others are looking at 43rd and Upton and how many trees we would lose if we went this way or that way. And so we may lose 4 parking spots or 3 trees. And that's kind of the granular kind of work that we do. And so it's standing on the corner looking at these drawings with some other community folks and saying, well, what if we moved it 20 feet this way or added or better lighting? And so I'm saying that what I see, and I looked at the transit to 2040 plan and see things are moving. I mean, if we just focus on one part of it, we're missing the big picture. I mean, like I mentioned earlier, this is a 100-year anniversary investment in this, and so it's and things change and but if you look at, they've been very successful over the years. It's maybe had a few challenges, but if it's going to be done right, you're going to have the challenges. If there's no challenges, it's something I don't know. I get suspicious about it then because it's not that easy. This is difficult work.
Yeah, for sure. I rode the streetcar down by Lake Harriet for the first time. I don't know, a month ago or something. And it's really hard thinking about transit since then to think how far that went. And it was just destroyed. John, I don't think I have any other questions. Is there anything you want to add that I didn't ask about?
Oh, there's a lot there here, but actually, I do appreciate the time. I was a little nervous.
Yeah. Well, you did great, so no
Right,
worries.
these interviews, you never know where they go sometimes. But I appreciate the interest. And so no, you can contact me anytime. I'm learning as I go, as I said. And
Right.
fortunately, I have a great team of people that are working with me, the staff at the Met Council. I ask, can I get, and that's how it works. Is, what about this? And they come back and tell me, here's what we've done on that. And so
Mhm.
I appreciate that as well.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, cool. Have a great day and enjoy Tulsa.
I'll do that. Thank
Yep.
you.
Yep.
Thanks
Thanks a
again for
lot.
having me.
Yep. See ya.